Today, we wanted to talk to you a little bit about what it's like to live in a van in the winter, how we stay warm, how to survive the winter in van life. We are taking a big excursion coming up soon, and we've been doing a lot to the van to get it ready for that excursion. But in the meantime, we've also been dealing with really cold conditions here in Utah, in the mountains, in the snow, and that's just a part of life. If you're living in the van, if you're gonna be in it full time, winter is a reality. So today we thought we'd kind of talk through what it takes to survive the winter.
So today we're gonna go over 6 things that we think are necessary to have in van life to survive the winter. And not only survive, but you wanna thrive. Tip number 1 is insulation. Now this doesn't just mean insulating your van when you are doing your build, even though that is crucial when you're doing your build. You wanna make sure you insulate very well for heat and for cold, but this really gets into the nitty-gritty, and that's where a lot of people kind of skip the step of windows and sectioning off the cab area. A lot of people will spend a lot of time and be very meticulous insulating every nook and cranny of their van, and then when winter rolls around, they don't even put covers on their windows and they don't section off the cab. So the cab is bleeding heat all the time. Every window in your van is single pane, which means the heat is just escaping through that window constantly. So even if your van's nice and warm and toasty, you're gonna be losing heat through the windows. So make sure you get some insulated window covers. Make sure you partition the cab in one way or another. We use a blackout curtain, and then in the wintertime, we actually double it up with a really cheap comforter, and that gives a nice barrier of insulation, and it's nice and warm. We keep it like 60, 65 in the van during the day and during the night. When you open up that cab, you can feel like a 20-degree difference, so it really does a good job of insulating. So just to recap on insulation, good insulation when you build the van, insulated window covers, and a nice insulated partition to keep all the heat in the back of the van.
That brings us to tip number 2. No matter how much insulation you put on the floor of your van, your floor will always be cold.
Yeah.
So we recommend you get a small area rug and also invest in some amazingly warm, cozy slippers. They make such a huge difference. And not have to worry about the floor being cold when you get out of bed in the middle of the night or in the morning. Stays nice and warm.
Yeah, big warm slippers that have a nice sole on the bottom are gonna make a huge difference. The rug that we have in our van is actually a bath mat.
Yeah,
it's
super simple.
Yeah, memory foam, and it's rubberized on the bottom, so it stays nice and warm. It's not cold like the floor. You can walk on it with bare feet. If you're gonna go off of the rug, make sure you throw on your slippers. All right, so tip number 3, tip number 3 is gonna be a heater or a furnace of some type. A lot of people go with the little Mr. Buddies that use the propane. Those are fine, they'll keep your van nice and warm, but they do pump a lot of moisture into the air, which can be detrimental if you live in a van. As you know, we dealt with some mold recently, and we have a heater that doesn't produce any moisture. We have an external combustion propane furnace, which means it creates fire in a little internal combustion chamber. It exhausts out of the van, and that heats in a very dry heat. We have it hooked up to a thermostat, so it keeps it at whatever temperature we set, day or night. That is clutch. You absolutely need a heater if you want to survive in the winter. Doesn't matter what type of heater it is, just make sure you have a source of heat.
Having a thermostat that maintains a certain temperature is also really nice if you have a dog, because then you don't have to worry about the dog getting too cold. It's also really nice to keep your pipes from freezing. So if you have water pipes running throughout your van, which we do, It's nice to be able to leave the van and go for the day snowboarding or snowshoeing, whatever, and know that your water pipes are not gonna freeze.
And that is not a guarantee, because when it was -9, or wait, when it was 9 degrees, which is -12 degrees Celsius, we did have one of our pipes freeze. It thawed out later that day, but that was a problem that we ran into. So,
all the more reason to have some type of heating system in your van.
Yeah, that does it for the heater.
Tip number 4, is that where we're on?
Numero 4.
4 is invest in a really nice duvet or comforter. You want to be comfortable when you sleep. Sleeping is important. You spend a lot of time in bed, and so We recently upgraded to a really nice comforter. And it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, we sprung for the extra cash and we got a really nice down comforter. So down is amazing because it has really good insulation properties, but it also breathes really well. If you don't want to spend the extra money and get down, just double up on a couple of the cotton fiber comforters that you can get from like Walmart.
Yeah.
2 or maybe 3 of those, depending on how warm your van is, will do you fine in the wintertime. Only problem is if you get hot, you're gonna sweat to death. That's the nice thing about down, is it breathes, so you don't sweat as much.
It takes up a little bit of extra space if you're trying to fold up all those blankets during the day, but it is so worth it to be warm when you are sleeping.
Absolutely. Tip number 5 for surviving winter van life is seat heaters, or as I usually end up calling them, heat seaters. I always say heat seaters. I don't know why, it like gets twisted up in my head. Anyway, you can get these from the factory in most vehicles, but almost any dealership that you want to buy your van from will install aftermarket seat heaters. We did that in Tony Vanza, our first van, and we did that in Pamela Vanderson, our current van.
Lifesaver.
It's like $600 from the factory. It raised our monthly payment like $3. I'm totally fine spending $36 a year to have a nice warm butt, because when you get in and the van is cold and you got to start it up, the seat heaters, I mean, they warm up in like literally a minute.
And they light my butt on fire.
They're super
awesome.
Nice. That's probably number 1. That's probably at the top of the list, but
That's huge.
it ended up in spot number 5.
We like to say that we don't live in the van, we live outside of the van in the world, but we do need to drive from place to place to get to all those awesome destinations. So we spend a lot of time driving, even in the winter, and those seat heaters are clutch.
And just because we live outside the van doesn't mean we don't want to be warm and toasty and comfortable inside the van.
Very true. That brings us to our last tip. Number 6 for surviving the winter in van life is to have a snuggle buddy.
Frank,
Come here, bud.
come here.
Let's go.
Come on. Come here.
Come here.
He's been a
What
little
are you
camera
doing?
shy because he hasn't been on the camera too much lately.
What are you doing?
In the middle of the night or early in the morning, he jumps up and indirectly traps me under the covers, but he gets really close and snuggles and he helps keep us warm.
Frank is always there if you need to warm up really quickly. He's always producing a lot of body heat. Maybe this is kind of a cheat tip. You don't need a dog, but we highly recommend having a dog in van life. It makes a huge difference for us. If you don't have a dog or a cat or a gerbil, or fish aren't super cuddly, but whatever other pet you can take with you on the road, then maybe find a friend.
Yeah, having an actual snuggle buddy is even better, but I'm blessed because I get Allie and Frank.
So those are just a couple of our tips, some of the essentials that we think are important to have with you.
So get yourself those 6 things before you hit the road and try van life in the wintertime. Let us know in the comments if we missed something that you think is higher in priority than those 6 items, and
We will also link all of the products that we mentioned below in the description as well if you're interested in checking any of them out.
absolutely. We want to thank you guys so much for watching this episode. Trent and Allie signing off. Smash the like button if you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe to Trent and Allie if you're not already.
And we will talk to you soon, guys.
See you guys on the next one.
Thanks.
Bye.